Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first MTD Together webinar with software. And today we're joined by Kevin Sefton from Untied. So thank you for coming, Kevin. Just run through the
Great to see
usual admin. We're going to have this recorded. Any questions, pop it in the Q&A. And then when it comes to the chat, Kevin is going to be really quite an interesting perspective today from MTD. So he will be asking questions as well of the community. So feel free to answer and reply. But without further ado, I welcome my partner in crime, Robin Milstead.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is very exciting to kick off MTD together. This thought that instead of tackling MTD alone, we're going to do it together, but not just together in industry, but as in practice, but also across software vendors as well. So it really is my pleasure to hand over to Kevin to show you all about his software. And of course, we have a few of these coming up over the next couple of months so that we can really get a good understanding of exactly what everybody's offering, exactly the different features that we want to be aware of. And within the next few months, in fact, the next 6 months, we also have a monthly get together of us being able to talk about all the things that we need to know and do for MTD upcoming. So take us away, Kevin. Let us see Untied.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Robin. It's really lovely to be here this afternoon, and I hope everyone can hear me. Unlike the webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago, where for the first 5 minutes it turned out nobody could hear me because I hadn't pressed start. So I am pleased that you are in control of the Zoom controls this morning or this afternoon. I'll start with actually talking about my MTD journey and my background. So I originally qualified as an accountant and tax advisor, specializing in VAT. Don't hold the VAT side against me because most of my career has actually been looking at software and in particular how software can be used to streamline tax. So I feel the experience of a lot of the people that will be on this call. And Untied was first created back in 2018. And we wanted to see if we could streamline the self-assessment journey, knowing that Making Tax Digital was coming. So we've been at this game a long time. And I think one of the important things is to distinguish between software which has come from different sorts of background. You've got many products which have come from the small limited company background, and they work really, really well. There are other products which have come from the agent perspective, but typically that doesn't involve the record keeping. And then you have Untied, which combines everything that you need as an individual for self-assessment and migrates that through into the Making Tax Digital world, including the record keeping, the in-year quarterly updates, and the end-of-year tax return effectively to HMRC. I'll be showing you that everything is all in one place. So whether that is your multiple trades for self-employment, your UK property and your foreign property, which are your Making Tax Digital sources, but also other things which are going to go on the tax return, things like investment income, interest, dividends. You may have pension and employment income, which we'll take a look at, and more complicated things such as capital gains, HICBIC, and other things, student loans that will need to go somewhere and to be reported. This isn't something that is in development. It is something with Untied that is live. We were first recognized, and you were asked for some of the things about our MTD journey. We were first recognized for MTD for income tax. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this, in 2020. So we have been here waiting for everything to catch up for over 5 years. I also need to set expectations because I know that we are the first to be doing this demonstration and want to explain that there are going to be some things which are going to be limited, not necessarily by Untied's capability, but because I will be showing you HMRC data. Untied works, and I'll show you that in a moment, by linking bank accounts, as many of the products do. But where we start to stand out is the way that you can link your personal accounts together with your card accounts and your business accounts all in one place. And they include non-sterling accounts. We've got embedded currency translation as well. So let's take a look at the way that works. By default, what I'll be showing you is designed for those people who have got income below £90,000. They're working on the cash basis, and the income level is below £90,000. So we can do the simplified accounting effectively, generally known as the three-line accounting, for them. If you have clients that need greater analysis, we'll also take a look at that, and I will show you how that works. So importantly, don't see Untied as just for the smallest, simplest taxpayers. We actually start simple and then we grow with the individual according to their business with more advanced features. So are we ready for me to start sharing? And this is where I do start to panic because I want to make sure that I'm actually sharing the right window and the right screen. So hopefully, when I press this button, you should see a screen with some transactions on. Can I have a thumbs up from Robin or Tom or for anybody else?
It's loading, and there we go.
That's a relief. Okay. So we're going to be taking a look at the core things. I will then pause. Please ask questions as we go, and then we'll look at some of the advanced agent features as well. Untied has a mobile app as well, which clients can use, and they can be managing everything from the mobile app. In fact, I think that app submitted the UK's first end-to-end mobile tax return in 2019. And we also include payments to HMRC. An Untied user did the first open banking payment to HMRC. So we've got a lot of experience of being first with these things, and we'll see how that works. But let's start by tagging some transactions. Really easy. I'm going to select this euro transaction. I'm deliberately doing this because just to demonstrate the foreign currency capability, I will tag that as business income. And we can see at the top, the figure is automatically converted to pounds at the right exchange rate, and away we go. Well, I can be doing this for my other income as well. I'm going to also be tagging some expenses, and we'll see some of these things. Now, Amazon is one of those suppliers where people generally will be making purchases, which will be a mix of business and personal. So let's just double click on that, and we will partly claim this for the business element of that transaction. I'll tag that as the business expense. I can put a comment if I want to do that. And at the bottom, you can see that I can add evidence. There's no obligation to add evidence, and we have OCR capability if you want that as well in order to recognize receipts and the nature of the transaction. I'll show you that perhaps if we have time in a little bit, but I'm just going to add here personal, items excluded. And we've now got that transaction. You can see on the right-hand side, we have an amount and we have a claims column. Whoops, I was trying to click on the Zoom controls. Let's see if I can move that there out the way. So we're building up things as we go, but everything is in one place. I'm receiving rent here from Joe Robson. Now, in this case, let's imagine it is a jointly held property. Well, on the left-hand side, I'm going to just create a custom rule actually for Joe Robson, and we can see how this works. I could have bulk tagged them there or tagged them individually, but let's just create a rule that if we have any bank account and it is income and the description contains Robson rent, then we're going to be tagging this as rental property income. And let's say it's a 50-50 share. I'm going to be applying that to existing untagged transactions. And here we go. If I go back to my transaction screen, we can see I now have £7,000 of income. And if I do a filter at the top, the filter is really important. And this page is very similar to what you might have as cash coding in Xero. And the speed at which you can be doing this really makes it easy for people. So I'm going to just do one other thing when it comes to some of this tagging at this point. We can see that I've got Vodafone transactions. Now, it might be that you've got clients and you're not quite sure what the allocation is going to be of some of their things like internet or mobile phone bills. Now, what I could do, I could just tag all of this at this point as a business transaction. but instead I'm going to create a custom tag. So custom tags can be used to do various things, and different agents will manage this in different ways. This is a really powerful tool, which we'll be looking at again in a little bit. But I'm going to be mapping this and creating a transaction tag called split. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be saying to my client, as you go through the year, if there are things which are a mix of business and personal, then just tag that as split. So I may have my Vodafone transactions, I'm going to tag those as split. I may have some OVO energy as well. And we can see a little light bulb, and that's actually to prompt to working from home wizard. But for now, I will tag that as split. As the advisor, your client is doing things to help you at the end of the year, where you can then review the split transactions and work out the appropriate share. So for the quarterly updates, it doesn't matter if 100% of these or 0% has been claimed. This is the sort of thing that you want to be getting right at the end of the year. I realize we haven't really been talking about MTD, and that's exactly the intent, because we will be looking at that a little bit later. Now, within these transactions, of course, there are going to be some things which are not your MTD income sources. You can choose as an advisor to tell your clients whether to tag these or not. But it's also designed to make things easy for you. So if I do a search for interest, we've got the PlusNet Internet, which we might want to tag as split, but we have the interest. I'm simply going to tag that as bank interest. You can type in the top here in order to get to the relevant tag quickly. I've got dividends in here as well. And I'll come back later with a custom search, which is just for advisors in order to speed up your due diligence when it comes to checking things at the end of the year, because that's the most important thing for you, making sure that your clients get this right, but also in a mechanism that is efficient for you as the advisor. One of those things is, I'm sure neither Robin nor Tom nor any of the other advisors on this call have any clients that insist on claiming fuel. This is just something which maybe is in your head or in my head that sometimes it happens. But hypothetically, imagine you have a client that insists all the time on claiming fuel, and you know they're also claiming mileage. Remind me to come on to mileage in a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to help your clients get it right with their tagging. We can see here there's a transaction for Shell Harcourt. Can you see that? Yep. Now, what you don't want is that client tagging that as a business expense and then you having to find that transaction within a whole mess. So what you're going to do as the advisor is you're going to create a custom tag called fuel. Whoops. Fuel and motoring. It's going to be an expense. And instead of mapping this to a business expense, you're going to map this to personal. So what you're doing is recognizing that you have a client that regularly mistags things and claims things they're not entitled to, but you give them the ability now to tag things with a custom tag, and then they think they're claiming stuff, and indeed they are claiming it, but it's not going to the tax return, and gives you the power then to review this at the end of the year. And I'll show you some of those things there. You can see that it is a personal tag because it's in grey rather than other things. Those transactions that are simply ignored obviously don't go towards your tax totals. And we find that clients get confused about the amount of data that goes to HMRC. So we reassure them it is just the totals that go, not the individual transactions, not the evidence, and not the untagged transactions. All that goes to HMRC is the totals. If you or your client want to add manual transactions, well, that's straightforward. You go to the top right and click on transaction. And you can also import transactions from a spreadsheet. So all of that is within Untied. And we have a bank reconciliation capability as well, which allows you or your client to make sure that your transactions are fully incorporated into Untied. And this is the way that this works. And I can go into that in more detail. But needless to say, if you set an opening balance at the start of the tax year for this account, let's say £345, you can then see what the calculated balance is that you would expect at any point, and then you can manage that appropriately. So that's part of the tools that we have for advisors, and we can look at that in more detail if that's going to be of interest. I mentioned journeys because Untied, as part of our mobile app, also automatically logs journeys, which the client can decide to claim. Now, they have a couple of ways to do it. They can leave it automatically running, which might be someone who is always doing business mileage, a delivery driver or so on, or they can have it where they start and stop a trip, and they can then put a commentary what it is. So I'm coming to see the community somewhere in Reading. I'm going to claim that journey, and we can see that then is adding up the miles and always applying the correct rate. It identifies the type of vehicle as well. So we can see that I've been out on my bike, which won't be a surprise to anyone who knows me. I'm normally on my bicycle, very rarely in a car. So this helps with a log of the journeys that your clients have been doing. Quite reasonably, there may be times that you want to add a total for the year, and you can just do that for the year total, or you can have a start and end postcode the way that you would normally do it. It's a flexible way in order to be logging the journeys, and you can keep an eye on things. Clients can raise invoices and request payment within Untied. But what I want to do now is just look at a couple of things as we gear up towards the MTD filings. And in particular, from an agent point of view, you will want to know what other income sources are supported by Untied and how does that work. So if they're capital gains, the standard forms that you'll be used to are all here. The only one that we really don't have, foreign income, is not here, but is going to be live by the end of the 25-26 tax year. That's being brought in for those in Making Tax Digital now. But the other gap, I suppose, but if we do get significant demand, let me know, is for trust income. We know that that's largely covered elsewhere, but if people want trust income, let us know. But the other forms that you're going to be encountering are all here. And if you do have questions, reach out and we can put things live. So you've got your SA 109, you've got the property and other bits and pieces and partnership share, plus you've got the VCT, EIS and SCIS. I guess it helps as well that as a team, we've all come from a strong tax and technology background. So we speak your language and we also know how to put things live. And we have a lot more capability that isn't exposed, but which is fully embedded in the Making Tax Digital and self-assessment experience. So the thing I said I haven't done so far is actually show you Making Tax Digital. Are we ready to do some filings for MTD? So I'm going to just click on the left-hand side, and as with any of these products, we're going to have to link this to HMRC. Now, you will be doing this using your HMRC credentials as an agent, but your clients can do this as well. Now, I'm just going to click on this. I'm not sure if you can now see the tab that's opened to give permission. It may be that it hasn't appeared. Right, the way that Zoom works, it's not seeing. Right, so I'm going to be just doing this demo. These are demo credentials from HMRC, and they need to be credentials for the client. So that's why I'm doing this way.
Yeah, we can see it, Kevin.
Yeah, you're getting that. And I'm now giving the permission.
Click of a button.
And here we have the link between HMRC and Untied. Hopefully, every demonstration for this screen will look similar between all the different software products because this is dummy HMRC data and we all get the same data. So there are going to be some things which you're going to think that looks odd, but it comes from HMRC and we can explain why and how this works. I have my 3 MTD income sources here. I have in this environment, and I'll show you more MTD options in the future. But here we have our 3 MTD sources, your self-employment, bizarrely called Company X, my UK property, and my foreign property. One thing I strongly suggest if your clients are doing the in-year quarterly updates is this: auto submit. Turn that, well, ask them to turn it on because it will mean then that the quarterly updates go to HMRC. And if you or they then need to do a manual update, you can always do that. A reminder that you can do an in-year quarterly update at any point in the year, not just in the windows. So I'm actually now going to do a manual update. This was something that agents asked for. We had a roadshow with HMRC where Untied was in the room together with the products that you know, with Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, and Free Agent. And we asked the room of agents, do you want to be filing up to the end of the quarter, or do you want to be filing up until today's date? Initially, the room was split, so I'd be really interested what the agents on the call think here.
Well, I can tell you a bit about we had that conversation in therapy quite early on when we started to realize that different softwares provide different options here. And generally speaking, most people wanted the option to choose.
Well, that's a relief because that's exactly what people said in the room. So we asked people, which do you want? Hands went up both ways. And then someone said, well, why can't we choose? So as a result of that, we picked the option that you can choose. You can choose any date from the last submission. HMRC don't allow you to turn back the clock. But since the last submission, which was on the 4th of February, we can choose any date. I'll do it up until today. You can see now we've got the trading expenses and the mileage. If your actual expenses are under £1,000, Untied automatically would claim the trading allowance in terms of actually helping people optimize that. If agents don't want that, then we can disable that. But by default, we would be claiming the trading allowance if there's no loss being generated, and that would happen automatically. And we can now see that that data has been submitted. We then get a tax calculation back, which I'm not going to spend too long on because I know there's been lots of conversations about tax calculations. So by default, it is compressed in the concertina. Hold your breath and then take a look at the tax calculation. It will never look as bad or as complicated as this. This is the HMRC dummy data. It doesn't match what was submitted. It is just demonstrating all the different fields being filled and the values that it supports. But this is where there will be a tax calculation. As I said, I'm not going to dwell on it, but we need to see how this looks for actual taxpayers and whether this is relevant to you. So I'll come on to that again, perhaps a little bit later. We also have 100 billion of national insurance, which is owed to me, which is very nice. But I suspect DWP would have a different view on that. Employment information is brought from HMRC. There's a lot of uncertainty about this, and I need to be really clear. The employment data and the pension information, that's UK and private pension information, come from HMRC. So they're both brought in. Again, ignore the values here. This is dummy data from HMRC. We have seen, so we've got several hundred people live in MTD at the moment. They are live in the current tax year in 25-26. And perhaps something I can share. We have learnt that in the past, when we were signing up people with HMRC for Making Tax Digital. The problem was in the HMRC systems. Let's be honest, Making Tax Digital is primarily about moving people from the old system into the new, and the new system was not up to the level that we needed it. I think things have now changed. And when we do see problems, and we do see problems, it is generally with the individual client record. And that needs to be fixed individually by the agent or by the client or by HMRC. And we're using the argument to clients that the advantage is to come in early in the 25-26 tax year to make sure that their record has been properly migrated, that we can do a quarterly update in the 25-26 tax year. And thirdly, that everything going forward is then happening in the HMRC environment for Making Tax Digital, not being split between the old self-assessment and the new one. So we've learned quite a lot about how to help people and how to help agents on that journey. The other income sources are also kept up to date. So these are we saw the dividends and the interest and various other things being tagged before. And the end of year process. I think you're going to be quite interested in the end of year process, aren't you? Because I think there's been quite a lot of questions around this. Different software will handle this in a different way. Our preference is always to change the underlying transactions. So if you have got things to be adding, and I'll just do that very quickly. Imagine the rent I'd received had some agent fees deducted. I'm going to go quickly to a transaction. We have a transaction type called a contra, which is effectively where you've got the agent fees which have been deducted. And let's say it's £1,000, and we're then going to be tagging that as rental property income and rental property expense. In practice, I might do that for the year total and save that. So by making these adjustments, we're making these adjustments in the underlying transactions. And that is a more robust way, I think, than simply putting in an adjustment in the final stage, because I'm going to show you that again here.
Sorry, Kevin, before you move on to the next point, I think Louise's first question was on this exact point. So Louise, can you just confirm that Kevin is answering this for you? Because I think he is without knowing you've asked the question. Sorry, Kevin.
Okay. I can't see any of the chat, by the way. It makes me panic not seeing the chats because I'm used to reading all the questions, but with Zoom, I end up clicking through it. So let's see. Have we got an affirmative on that from Louise?
So Louise's question was, my clients receive income from their agent, but that is the net fee. I could not quickly see how you turned the amount received of say 1,500 into business income of 2.5 and agent fees of 500 and withholding tax that would go in the reclaimable tax area. So yeah, I get it's not explaining the withholding tax, but I think the question is, you've received 1,500 quid. She wants to be able to show the actual gross income as 2.5 and an expense of 1,000.
Yeah, we'll look at withholding taxes in a little bit as well. But yes, that's it. I mean, Louise, I hope that did cover it here. You just simply the difference. I would always tag the money that's coming in, and then add a transaction for the contra. We debated whether we call it a contra or an in and out transaction or other things. But the contra effectively is what you would do for that difference. Now, it might be that contra needs to be made up of different amounts. If you've received money taken off by an agent, that may be for maintenance in part, and it may be agent fees as well. But effectively, that combination is what would be needed there. Does that answer that question?
I'm happy with that, but Louise, we'll wait for Louise to type in.
Okay.
I think for now that's
Yeah.
that's good. You're essentially just saying that you need to add in the extra transactions to make something net.
Yeah. and we make it as easy as possible in order to do that.
Louise is saying no. Louise, can you pop the extra questions, and we'll come back to it.
Mm.
Okay, I love these questions. It's good. End of year. Um, this is where we were talking about the different ways that the end of year transactions can be managed. We'll come back to a couple of things in a moment, but there is this thing called the business source adjustable summary. And this is where, quite frankly, you overwrite the numbers that already exist for this year. Okay, so here I've got income of 1179. I'm not happy with that. For some reason, I'm putting an adjustment in. This is effectively where we are now changing things. We would then submit the adjustments and so on, and that would then lock the ability to submit further in-year quarterly updates, which is why I don't really love it. But on the other hand, it does stop your client from making further changes. And then that would then go through. You've got the adjustment then that's available. And then we would finalize the tax for the year. Now, the flows that we're going to be building for this, I'll be honest, the flows are not entirely in place for the agent yet to be sending things to the client, but you can download here the tax return report. So that's a PDF, which is the summary that you would then send to the client for confirmation. And it would include at this point the calculation. So I know there is a query that a lot of agents have about the two stages that you're submitting the data for a calculation. We then get the calculation back, and then we send this to the client for confirmation. Our strong suggestion and the flow that we've got is that we go through, we generate the calculation, and you send it all in one go to the client for sign off. And then when they're happy, I'm logged in here as the user, not as the agent, because of the flows for the test environment for HMRC. And then when you are happy to submit it on behalf of your clients, you would submit, and the data goes to HMRC, and that is a return that has been submitted. It's not being shown at the moment because of the dummy data from HMRC, but in practice, that's where it would be displayed. I want to just stop the share because I want to come back and see if there are questions in the chat, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, we have some questions. Tom,
Okay.
you're muted.
I was just going to say, Kevin, I'm really quite blown away by some of the features in there. The standout ones for me were the auto submission. I think you covered it, but it was about bulk tagging transactions. So when you had the Vodafone ones, you can bulk tag all of those. That I thought was quite good. Louise's question was a really good one, and I think that was, really valid. And the other questions we've got. So another one from Louise. I make my chart of accounts relevant to the business, for example, costume for musicians, etc. And that's so that she can see what they're spending. Can we add detailed categories, and how do we map that into either the 9 accounts or the 3 line accounts?
I love that question. Okay. What's the next question? We'll come on to that.
Okay. The next question was, how do the journeys get into Untied?
Okay. Really dumb thing here is they get into Untied by using the mobile app, and literally the mobile app, which is obviously the client has the mobile app, has a couple of options there. One of them is that it auto detects a journey. Now, what it doesn't do is it doesn't know why you are leaving home and going somewhere. And it has lots of complicated, sophisticated logic in to make sure that if you walk 200 yards to the shops and you come out or you go into the garden, that doesn't count as a journey. The second option is that you can press start in the mobile app and then stop at the end of the journey, and then that will log the journey. So we've got delivery riders, we've got people who actually are property, have got a property portfolio and they're driving between their properties and they're all using it. So there are different ways to get the journey in, but the simple thing is you start moving. And a few years ago, I went skiing and it detected that I was skiing down a slope as well. I hadn't turned it off. it was not quite as quick as I would have liked to it have been, but there we go.
But you've
Winter
also got
The
Olympics.
question is, did
the
you put that through or not?
Well, I have to have a business trip to the ski slopes just to check whether the logging works properly.
That's like the
I'm not.
reasoning of some of our clients, right? You had the third option there as well, though, that you can just manual add those trips right as well. So it's not just that people have to press stop and start. They can keep their own mileage log and tell you or just manually upload too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, Louise asked, are there other questions, sorry, that I need to uh,
Yeah,
be ready for as well?
the one that Louise has just asked as well is about will it replace Trip Catcher or Mile IQ? Um,
So some people like to use it alongside. My suggestion genuinely is if people are happy with what they're using, don't change. And again, one of the things I think we need to be realistic about is that all of these products are going to give a slightly different estimate of the distance because we are being quite sophisticated with what we're doing. And it might be that our journey is slightly out from Mile IQ. If people are trusting something, you may also get clients that say, look, Untied missed a third of my mileage if you lose signal and we don't quite know where you are. So depending on the journeys, you may need to, we accept you've got
mm,
some evidence, but you may need to sort of scale up some of the mileage, but that will be something which will be applying to all of these different products as well. Um, are there other questions? I'm going to start sharing my screen
Yeah, can we go
on
back to, I just want to clarify that one from Louise again, about the net transaction. What she's really asking is whether or not you can combine all of those extra transactions that you're adding in to explain that net transaction into one. I'm assuming the answer there is no, because that's the whole point. You're adding extra transactions in. Can you group them together?
Yes.
Okay.
So Louise, I think, well, if I'm inferring this properly, you might have over the course of the year, I don't know, 50 different transactions. I mean, if you're using something like Stripe or SumUp or something like that, you're going to have loads of little transactions, aren't you, that need to be added up. I would combine those into one, and I would do it on an annual basis. I wouldn't do it necessarily rigorously each quarter. But what I would do at the end of the year is I would just get the copy of the report from Stripe that says your total turnover was, I don't know, £45,000. We had £5,000 of expenses. We remitted £40,000. I would do one contra for the £5,000. The last thing you want is lots of tiny, tiny transactions. But if you do want to do that in terms of individual transactions, you can do that. I would do that by import. I would import all of those transactions into Untied from the summary that you get from Stripe or SumUp or whatever it might be, or Airbnb. All these platforms do it in different ways. So that's your challenge. What I've got in front of me here is I've got my custom tags here. So in this scenario, I've got someone who's got two different businesses. One is a designer, a design business. The other one is they are a lawyer. Now, what I've done here is I've imported the default mapping effectively to the HMRC categories. But what I'm actually going to do now, I'm going to create a new one. What was the fashion one that you had? It was costume.
Costumes for musicians, yeah.
Oh, a musician. Okay. Okay. Costumes. Okay. It's an expense. We're going to map this to our MTD activity. Now, everything eventually has to be mapped to an MTD business. So, which of these do you think it would be in terms of the underlying expenses here? I don't know. Let's just call it an admin cost. We can deal with it later.
If in doubt,
So
stick it
these
in
are the
sundry.
Yeah, it's always the place that it goes. But these are the categories that come from HMRC. We don't set these. But what it means here then is you have something which is called costumes. You, as the advisor, are really adding value now by explaining to the client, what their relevant tags are. I'm going to add now a manual transaction. It's going to be a money out. I don't know, it's a wicked £100 costume. And now I can choose a tax tag. I type in costume at the top and it finds my costumes up here. And there we go.
So, as an agent, if you've got lots of very similar clients and you're creating lots of these personalized tags, is there a way to, if you have a standard set of personalized ones, to bring it into an individual client, or it is all one by one?
Yes. So see at the top right, you've got import. So you would simply import, well, you download the template and then you'd import under these back up. So you as each practice could well have different um, standard tags that you want. Now, one of the challenges, which is slightly frustrating, if I'm being honest, is we don't know the MTD business ID and category until they're actually linked for MTD, but I can go through that in more detail. This is going to get better as more people are actually formally in Making Tax Digital. But yes, you can set your default tags that you use. So it's a bit like your default chart of accounts as a practice, and then you know how to navigate that. And then you can tailor that to the individual clients as well. So we think that's really important, that you should be in control in terms of how that works. And it needs to make sense, doesn't it? Because I get really frustrated with the standard tags about depreciation, particularly as people who are on the cash basis. Why have we still got depreciation in there coming from HMRC? So I hope that helps as well. One of the other things that we have for agents is we have express searches, which I'm going to just give you an example now. This will find charitable donations in the current year. So it's looking through the entire database in the current year, and it's finding a selection of things that might be charitable donations. So all of these transactions have been missed off. I can then tag those individually or in one go. And we can tag those as charitable donations. So that is the sort of thing that we could be doing. The other, whoops, the other, I've just swapped between two different screens there. The other tool that you might want to do that sort of search for is fuel. We saw earlier there was the Shell transaction, so fuel and motoring should be coming up as well. I'm not sure that it might have actually just taken a while for that to come in. Yeah, so we're seeing here all of my motoring costs coming in a similar way. One thing that you are going to want as well is you're going to keep an eye on all of your clients. So I'm just going to briefly show you some of the things that we've got in development because you wanted me to talk about the roadmap. Untied is fully, oh, sorry?
I said, yes, please. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Untied is fully built. We see it that because we've been able to be building this over such a long time, I'll stop the share so you can actually, I can see you again. We've built the cake. The cake works. It's all good. What we're doing now is we're building the icing on the cake. And that's really where we hope to be able to add value to agents in order to make sure that things work for you. One of the things that we can do is we can do onboarding for your clients as well. So you are not alone. We can do handheld onboarding. We can do that in small groups, and that's what we would generally advise to make sure that we are supporting you to make sure that your clients know what they're doing. There's no charge at all for the core product for agents. It's a fixed price for the clients of £130, including VAT for a year. I mentioned VAT. We should also talk about how to handle the use of Untied if someone is already VAT registered. Generally, a VAT client would already be using MTD software for their VAT returns, but if they're not using it for their self-employment, for the self-assessment already, in Making Tax Digital, they would bring the transactions again into Untied. You tag the money if you're on the cash basis as it comes in and out, and whatever payments you make or receive from HMRC in terms of your VAT, that is also tagged as a transaction. So that is the way that VAT is handled if you are both VAT and MTD for income tax obligated. And that may not be an uncommon scenario because a lot of the VAT products, as we know, are really quite straightforward, and they don't go into the richness of the details of the other things that need to be reported. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you something which is coming through. A, this is a development platform. It is currently in live beta, but this allows you to be looking at your clients across all sorts of different types of income source and need. So there's a bit of analysis that you're going to find in terms of your client status, but I'm just going to show all of your clients in one place. Whatever software they're using, this is all of the clients that you have. And if you are a larger practice, you may have client groups, and we can look at the way that this works. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a quick look at the client groups that you can expand according to office, or it might be the lead on each of these different types of client. And also you can see the income sources that they have. So if you want to filter according to who's got UK property, you can find who's got UK property, and equally foreign property, and so on. You can see what software they're using in year and what they're using end of year. You can see when they're mandated and when they actually registered, and what the registration status is, the agent status, and if they've got any penalties. So the idea being, here is a single view where you can see all of your clients. You might hear, I'd love it if everyone is using Untied. I really, really would. But what you might want to do is actually just say, well, look, we've heard on the grapevine there's a problem with Zero, other software also available. This is not to identify Zero, but you can see then which of your clients have been using Zero. You may think actually that there is a particular thing that you need to do where you want to actually see where the firm has got the quarterly update responsibility. So you can set that flag. Alternatively, where the client is responsible and what does this mean? So you have quite a powerful view of all of your clients here in terms of the way that this works. Let me just reload that. So the other thing which you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to look at an individual client page to see what their in-year filing status is. So why don't I open up one of the clients and we'll drill down and we'll see the way that that works. As I said, it crashed because it's a demo environment, that one, but we've got it currently in live beta and this is being rolled out. But I can't show you that with real data because that involves real clients. So let me just come on to the view then of an individual client. I'm also going to take a quick look at the chat while we go around that.
Do you want us to throw some questions?
What is that? No.
Don't worry, you've cleared that now, Kevin. That's fine. We've just got two questions popping up in the Q&A. So going back to auto submission, when auto submission is turned on, what date does the update submit as?
So at the moment, it is submitting at the start of the submission period to make sure that we've actually got something submitted. We are debating whether we move that to the end, but the risk of leaving it to the end is that the client is then getting more and more frantic messages from everyone. The advantage of having it at the beginning is that they've met their obligation and something has been submitted. So I am open to different answers to that, really. But at the moment, that is against the beginning of the submission period.
Okay. And then another one, you mentioned that you can raise invoices, but you didn't show us how you can match the bank line to those invoices.
Good question. Right. Okay. I'll come back to that. I've got 10 minutes, haven't I?
Got 11 minutes, so.
Okay. And how am I doing? Because you gave me a bit of an order. Am I doing it the right way or the wrong way?
No, we're
You're doing
good.
a great job, Kevin. Yeah. I must admit,
fine.
I've probably got another half an hour of questions that I want to ask you personally afterwards.
I've got a list too. So.
Yes, that's all good. Okay. Right. So let me just share my screen. Right. we were looking, weren't we, at this a little bit. Can you just remind me that those questions again, Robin? I'll make sure that I'm.
Just the matching the invoice to the bank line.
Yeah, okay. So when you raise an invoice, I'm going to have to stop the share and restart the share because it's not actually letting me click anywhere on my screen at the moment.
If
It
you
has
if
dawned
you
on me that you could do the auto submit throughout the year, and so long as the client's got fairly simple records, you could set up all the rules, all the tags, and literally just clock in at the end of the year, tidy it up, and off you're done.
I had someone the other day, and we basically did their tax return in 6 minutes based on where they had got to. I mean, this was I would not suggest that you do it in 6 minutes. I think that's not a professional
are you
approach.
are you saying that a tax return is just a click of a few
Mhm.
buttons? I mean, I have
It's got to be worth
objection
No,
about
there.
what I'm saying
16
is
quid for those 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
they've got a lot already done. So effectively, this was something where you've got to distinguish, I think, between the advice that you give, and a lot of people will ask us, what does what should I do in terms of my advisor? And I think that this is giving you something as an advisor, which gives you more information in the year. So you can be helping people as they go to get things right. And I would not suggest that anyone does things in a quick time, but this is about making sure that everything is right in year. So the end of year process is really straightforward. So if you wanted to have a sit down every 3 months, you can actually help your clients get things right and write a list of the things that, as an advisor, you want to keep an eye on at the end of the year and then manage it. One of the other things that we see as a really useful thing is, as the advisor, to create a custom tag. Sorry, I've not forgotten that other question. I'm going to call this a custom tag to discuss, where the advisor is setting this, and it doesn't matter what you map this to at this point. So you are effectively going through this and you are identifying transactions that you really want to be discussing with the client. So that's the way that you might be doing that in that sense. So there's a transaction. So let's just see what we've got. There's an IKEA transaction. Let's say you're not quite sure what that is, but it looks significant. You're going to just tag that as to discuss. And then you're creating an agenda for things to talk through with your clients as well. And you can just put a note here to say, Bill, what is this? Bill would be quite upset because the client's name in this case, I think, is Dale, but whatever it is, you'll be able to use that there. When it comes to payments and invoices, I've got to say we have a rudimentary invoicing capability compared to some of the others. But here, what you can do is you can automatically set it to tag the payment when it comes into Untied and decide what it's going to be. So you have this capability to do an auto match when the payment comes in. That relies on a couple of things. It relies on the payment having been made and the reference going through the entire system with the same reference. Some banks support that, some don't. But this is the way that would work. And then you get a list of all the invoices that you've raised. If I just do this, whoops. I don't know. So you can then decide whether you want to send an invoice or just a payment request. You are setting a due date and so on. You can view the invoice, the template there. It's not going to look pretty because I haven't done any configuration at all in this. But effectively, this is the way that this works. Here's the default invoice that's coming in. And then when the payment comes in, that would be automatically tagged. So I hope I've answered that question. I did say I was going to come back to the individual client view. So let's just take a quick look at the individual clients. So I've got to stop the share there. We've got 5 minutes. So any final questions coming in here? And
Y-
Robin and Tom, feel free to interrupt me
Sure,
because I think that,
I'm going to do just that. So we had a little bit of in the chat about the trading allowance, the automatic claim. So I understand that if there's less than is it less than £1,000 in a quarter, or does it trigger when it's less than 250 in a quarter? And then if the person's expenses go over, does it trigger back to claiming the actuals,
yeah, shall we show that really quickly?
if you like?
Yeah, fine. Okay. So here, though, you've got my client, Mike Chen, and you can see where they are. He's got one penalty point. He's got multiple income sources. He's got two trades. He's got UK property, but not foreign property. This syncs at every point with HMRC data. So if you want to add another income source for this individual, I can add a trade and I can then sync that to HMRC. And we do that in various ways. As a firm as well, you can also see what other permissions you've got set up with HMRC. And I'm going to show you something which is really important. This is the list of other authorized software that you have as a firm. So you've got Untied, QuickBooks, Sage, and Xero, but you also have this product called TaxSplat, which nobody has heard of. Once a software product is authorized, then that product can connect to HMRC on behalf of any of your clients and pull data. So it's important for you to see the list, and Untied shows you the list of other software that has been authorized. And you might think, I've got no idea what TaxBat is. In order to protect our practice, I'm going to make sure that I'm deauthorizing the software, and we can come back to that if someone then has that need. So that's just one of the things that we do. I'd like to do another slot. Maybe we can go through that in more detail. Coming back to the trading allowance. Um, so Robin, can you see we've got 2 minutes? We're going to do this. Anything else that you want to show me to show in the next 90 seconds?
The working from home wizard, I'm quite interested in that because I've got a lot of clients who at the end of every year spend a lot of time going back through their personal bank statements to check everything. And if they can do that through Untied, that's going to save them a lot of time as they're going through
Right.
it.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do really quickly here, I'm going to find everything here, which is I'm going to look, we're just going to make it easy, right? Anything which is tagged and money out, okay? Because these are our expenses. I'm going to untag these, okay? So effectively, what we've said is now we have no expenses at all. I'm now coming back to my quarterly update. So I've removed everything. The trading allowance is £1,000 a year. We don't break it down by quarter. So in theory here, well, it hasn't properly
Got
pulled that
mileage.
through yet. Let me just give it. Oh, I might have just clicked on that's the mileage, isn't it? That's weighed that out. Right. Okay, we're going to unclaim the mileage. Things go
It's good to
well.
see in real time how easy it is going to be to fix the client errors as well.
And of course, we're logging who's doing what. I should say at the bottom as well, we've got a switch back to self-assessment. So we can flip between self-assessment. And so your clients that are coming into MTD, we can have them. Okay, so it would be claiming the trading allowance at this point. We're not seeing it, but that would be being claimed at this point. We can see all of that is zero, but that would be being taken account of. The trading allowance is actually reported separately to HMRC, which is why it doesn't appear on there. But that's where that would have gone because it's not a live demo data. I can't show you
Yeah.
how that is affected, but that would have reported that as the trading allowance. Let's see if I can do that as the property allowance. Yeah, we've got the property allowance in there, so that's reported again slightly differently. So the property allowance is being included in here.
But then if you
Um,
add in, if you've submitted a quarter with this, and then you've added in some expenses, but the expenses are over £1,000, it's going to flip to your expenses, right?
Yes, yes. So, I'm worried about the time. I'm worried about the
Yeah,
time.
don't worry about demoing that side of things. Let's see the use of home if you're going to show us
Right,
anything.
use of home. Right. Tax forms, use of home. How many hours a month do you work from home? Under 25, more than 125, whatever it is. Do that. It then tells you the amount that it's claimed. Done.
I thought you said earlier there was one that was you could tag their expenses as they went through for the personal account.
Yes, right. So the expenses, the home, that was what I was tagging as the split. So when we had the split, what I would do there in that situation, Tom, and I realize we are just at time, I
It's
would
okay.
create a separate tag for home working,
Right.
make sure the client is tagging that all the way through the year. And then at the end of the year, you can decide whether they're going to be doing that as a fixed amount or as a share. So we had,
Perfect.
so that's the way that I would do that. I would go and I would create a home working tag, and then you can then decide how you want to approach that jointly with the client, because there are going to be some things that they're going to be tagging which they won't be able to claim, and there'll be other things that they will be able to claim, obviously.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. I think given that it's just gone past two, I cannot thank you enough for that demo today and looking towards the future. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you after today, how best to do that? If they want to have a look further at the software or just chat to you about it?
I love meeting agents. I really do. So I realized that no one's heard of us compared to the big vendors. And that's to your advantage as well, that we really can give personal care. It's the equivalent of going to your local deli where they know their food. And some of the larger supermarkets, really, really good stuff. I love supermarkets. But equally, sometimes you want to really get into the detail of stuff. So do reach out. I am at well, my actual email address is kevin@untied.io, but I'm going to ask email team@untied.io, because the team is much better at logging these things and following up, and actually then making sure that I can do a call. I can do um, calls with agents all the time if that is what you would like. And it's important that you get to know this. So thank you so much for your time. Robin, Tom, you're amazing.
Uh, Well, we
Thanks,
really
Kevin.
super
Thank you.
appreciate you coming and demoing to us and kicking us off on MTD together, with the collaboration with software, because it's so important for us to see those different options. So thank you to everybody that was able to attend live today, and thank you to everyone who's been able to watch back the replay. So we will sit, for those of you who are members, we will see you in therapy for the rest of the week, and take care. We can take questions on the group chat for anything that's needed. Kevin is, of course, in our group chat too, so I'm sure he won't mind you tagging him there and asking lots of questions. Great. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.